This is The Therapist's Couch with Virginia Corbett, licensed counselor, where professional insight supports personal growth. Join us for authentic conversations that inspire growth, healing, and hope. Welcome to The Therapist's Couch. In this episode, we continue our Creating Calm series with a deep dive into the brain behind calm. You'll learn how the amygdala and prefrontal cortex respond to stress and how to use the simple vagus nerve techniques like cold therapy and mindful breathing. These things will help your body and mind go back to being at peace. Let's begin.
I'm Virginia Corbett, and this is Anna Edwards, and we're just two crazy therapists wanting to talk about our series, Creating Calm in a Chaotic World.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about the Calm Code. Last episode we talked about how to create that sanctuary space, and how to have that curate the calm. And this time we're going to go a little bit into actually doing it and be a little bit some practical exercises.
Mm-hmm. I'm very excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, I know one thing about you is you're a brainiac, aka you love the brain.
I do. Yes, very much so. I think it's fascinating. So I'm very excited to be here to talk a little bit about that today.
Yeah. So what do you think about the brain? What is your brain passion? What excites you about that?
Honestly, I think just all of the, scientific evidence that we have about different ways that we can, improve brain function, improve cognitive functioning. And I think it's just, it is being talked about more and more today with social media. There is some, not the best information out there. So I think it's very important to, find the coping skills, find the things that work best for you, and figure out how you can begin to incorporate those into your daily routines. But yeah, that is kind of my take, I guess.
So today, kind of talking about the Calm Code, changing our brain, because naturally we kind of go to the state of stress.
Right.
That's the survival function of our brain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where we're going to go. Unless we curate it, otherwise, we're going to go to that state of stress.
100%. So basically, two major parts that I wanted to touch on today, right? Our amygdala. I refer to her as a she, part of our brain. So she is kind of our internal fire alarm, right? A little bit of a drama queen. She's the one that when she freaks out, our prefrontal cortex, that's the logistical part of our brain, responsible for problem solving, goal setting, boundaries, creativity, that part of our brain completely shuts down. And so in order to re-regulate, in order to help that prefrontal cortex kind of come back online, what we need to do is we need to activate our vagus nerve. And so I was hoping to talk a little bit today about the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve.
Yes.
And this isn't like Vegas, Las Vegas. This isn't like the Strip.
No.
I've loved the Strip.
A little less exciting.
I love the Strip. And like the spear, I think they have like Wizard of Oz or something in the spear. They have the eagles in the spear. Anyway, sorry.
I'm all here for it. I love it.
But that's Las Vegas. This is vagus nerve.
Yes. Vagus, VAGUS nerve. A little bit different, but our vagus nerve is just the longest cranial nerve in our body. So it connects our brain to our heart, our lungs, our digestive systems. It's why it's very, very important for re-regulating to activate that vagus nerve, right? Because you're getting so many areas. If you're someone that gets really, really anxious and your heart starts to beat really fast, or maybe your stomach starts to feel really tight, that is a clear sign I need to activate my vagus nerve.
So those are the those are the symptoms.
Yes.
So one of the things we can do when we get stressed out is take note of what's happening with our body.
Yes.
Because our alarm system is very good.
It is.
I mean, our bodies as humans are created to get away from the saber-toothed tiger.
100%.
And, that's where our bodies excel. Our bodies actually excel when we're in a stressed out state.
I'd be willing to say we're probably leaning a little bit more towards like too good at doing its job, right? Where we're constantly, subconsciously looking for what are the things that I need to be aware of. And so that is why it is so important to have ways to regulate your emotions, ways to activate that vagus nerve and physically and mentally regulate at the same time. I think it's very, very important.
Well, because one thing we actually touched on in our last episode is sort of that state of fear. And that state of fear and the state of questioning and the state of stress is actually a state that is not in this moment. It's actually a future orientation. It's not real.
Right.
The being in, that stress state, because in this very moment, everything is perfect. Kind of. but in this moment, unless your room's on fire, in the present moment, everything is fine. So we have to actually go finding that stress.
Right. Our brains are actively kind of working for that. So training yourself to, no, I'm okay. I'm here, to your point. I'm in this moment. I'm safe. I'm in a calm space. And then working towards figuring out, and it's different for everybody, different things. I tell my clients this all the time. Different things work for different people. What works for me might not work for you. So figuring out what works for you, what helps you feel calm and regulated during any type of dysregulation. It could be anxiety. It could be anger. It could be feeling overwhelmed. It could be extreme sadness. It doesn't always have to be just anxiety that's causing us to feel out of whack.
So what you're going to teach us today is how to regulate ourselves, which we can do anytime we're feeling dysregulation.
Yes.
That's kind of awesome.
Yes.
Because dysregulation happens in our modern society, in our modern culture. Dysregulation is where they like to keep us.
100%.
That's the clickbait.
It does feel that way for sure. But no, I use a lot of what are called the polyvagal therapy techniques, which essentially is just different ways to activate your vagus nerve. So again, I always tell my clients, any type of emotion dysregulation that you're feeling, trying to utilize one of these techniques in the moment is awesome, but I also highly encourage them to somehow, again, whatever works for them, incorporate that into your daily routine.
Okay. So step number 1 is to recognize the signs, recognize the alarm system is going off. But also you're saying step number 2 is have a toolkit of things that we can use. And that, as you said, everybody's toolkit is different. And that is actually like what I like to explain to people when I'm helping them with their, anxiety toolkit or with their vagus nerve toolkit is I can show every single client 10 different things and 2 or 3 will work for everyone, but they'll be different. So the problem is there's not we're very unique as humans, as individuals, we're very unique. And what works for one person doesn't work for another person. So you gotta actually be proactive in finding what works for you.
Yes, it's definitely a little bit of trial and error. And I think on that note, it's very important to really give these things a try, right? Okay, you tried it one time. Oh, it didn't work for me. Well, we got to try it. You can be consistent, right? It's just like anything in life, You're not going to go to the gym one time and then notice that you have these big muscles, right? Right. So consistency is definitely key. It's the same thing as for physical health, it is for mental health, right? Consistency is key. So the idea is you're going to give these things a try, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, right? Actually putting them into practice and then reassessing and kind of like we were talking about in the last episode, right? Checking in with yourself. How am I really feeling? How am I really doing?
Yeah. And one of the things that check in with yourself that I like to talk to my clients about is scaling. And you can scale your anger, you can scale your stress levels, but 1 to 10, like, what is your, and it's interesting, like, what's your normal level? Like, I always say, like, okay, 10's like you're about to have the worst panic attack you've ever had. And 1 is like you're just about to fall asleep. You're so calm. Where are you now? And most people are like, oh, I'm usually a 5. I'm usually a 7. They kind of have like their, and then I'm like, okay, where is it the point of no return for you? Where is it that you are going to like, because we don't just get there. We kind of creep up and creep up. So a lot of people are like, probably a 7 or 8.
Mhm.
If I have an 8, I'm out of control. I'm going to have that panic attack, or I'm going to say something to someone I really regret,
Right.
so or worse. So like when you ask yourself, when you do that scaling check-in, like, okay, I'm a 7. Ooh, I need to do something. I got to pull out one of my tools to
Right.
bring it down a little bit.
Right. And I like that too. Where, asking yourself, like, what is my norm? Because my norm is going to look different than your norm is going to look different than someone else's norm. And I think it's really important to, again, be able to check in with yourself. Like, if I know I'm typically hovering around like a 2 or a 3, I'm chilling, everything's good, right? A 5 is a lot different for me than someone who's typically maybe around a 4 or a 5, right? Like, so I think it's very important, again,
to establish your norm.
Exactly.
Exactly. It's kind of funny. I'll talk to clients and I'll be like, what is their norm? And they'll be like, oh yeah, a 2. And I'm like, really? I was like, really? You hang out a 2? Wow. But it does. It's true. That's the norm for them.
I need those secrets. No, I'm just kidding. But so going back into some of those polyvagal therapy techniques, I kind of, I guess, formulated this on my own, but I talk a lot with my clients about the difference between what I refer to as physical coping skills versus mental coping skills. So mental being those things, breathing, mindfulness, meditation, grounding. I think all of those things have value. Where I tend to typically start, if I'm being completely honest, is the physical coping skills. So what are those things that you can actually do in the moment when you're getting a little bit higher on that scale, when you're 7, 8? We want to avoid that. I think you said the point of no return, basically.
Yes.
So when we feel ourselves creeping up on that scale, I feel like, especially if you're just starting out in your therapy journey or your mental health journey, leaning on some of those physical coping skills is super important. My number one go-to, the thing that I always ask my clients to start with, is what I refer to as cold exposure or cold therapy.
Interesting.
Doesn't have to be anything intense. Every time I say it, people are like, "Ooh, no.
What am I going to do here? Is this the polar plunge?
No, nothing intense like that. No ice baths or anything. I mean, more power to you if that's your thing. But what I do tell clients is picking 2 different forms of that cold exposure, one that you're going to do every single morning when you wake up, and then a different form of cold exposure throughout the rest of your day. You're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, angry, any of those big emotions that we were talking about earlier, doing your different form of cold exposure.
Okay. Walk us through it.
So for me, this is just what works for me. When I wake up, I'm waiting for my coffee to brew in the morning. I put an ice pack on my chest. Literally 1 to 2 minutes is all you need. That's more than enough to activate that vagus
So you
nerve.
keep it in the freezer and you just set it on your chest.
Yep, that's it. A couple deep breaths and I'm starting my day off on a very regulated note. I got that vagus nerve activated. I'm feeling good. I'm starting my day in a positive, regulated space, mentally and physically, right?
So you make yourself do that before you have your coffee.
I do. The coffee's the reward after.
There you go. Pairing.
Yes, pairing, 100%. But so you can do that. You can hold an ice cube in your hand for a couple of seconds. You can.
So you just actually grab an ice cube.
Yep.
Just hold it in your hand.
Don't hold it for too long. I've had a couple of clients be like, that was super uncomfortable. You don't want to cause any kind of discomfort, right? But again, just finding what works best for you. If you can do the last 30 seconds of your shower, cold water, running your wrists under cold water, even drinking freezing cold water if you can, anything that physically something cold is touching your body, that is going to activate the vagus nerve, and that's going to ultimately help you feel more regulated in that moment.
That's really interesting, that the vagus nerve would be activated by cold, because I tend to love to be warm.
Me too.
I tend to shy away from anything cold.
Yes. You're kind of like shocking it. Awake. Right?
Yeah.
You're kind of like, hey, we need help.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it.
I love that. So the cold therapy, and then you said, starting off with something in your morning, if you can do it every morning, it's awesome. Then you said throughout the day, what are some things Like, how do you remind yourself to do that later again in the day?
So I know for myself that this is something that is really helpful in those, like, I can feel myself just creeping up on that scale, right? I always tell my clients, I'm like, I don't know if you're a Stanley or an Ovala girly, but those are really helpful for keeping that ice on hand if you can. I know different careers, obviously, you only have access to certain things. But yeah, that for me, it's carrying that little water bottle full of ice. If I need it, it's there.
So yours has ice in it.
Yes.
Because mine has coffee in it.
Oh my gosh. I have to dial it back on the coffee. I do love my coffee. But no, yeah, keeping that thing just chock full of ice and knowing that it's there is super helpful.
So, you have your Stanley full of ice.
Mm-hmm.
Do you drink out of it, or do you put your wrist on it, or
I will hold an ice cube for a couple of seconds. That's just what works best for me.
So that's your thing. You'll just kind of, you find yourself, and then that just immediately gives you that stress relief.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do any breathing or anything with that?
I do the 4-7-8. Again, just kind of what works best for me.
Walk us through the 4-7-8.
So the 4-7-8 is in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. If you've never done it before, it is a little bit odd.
So just me. Go ahead. Let's do it.
So I'll count for you. So it's in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8.
Okay.
All right. So go ahead and in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you kind of like feel yourself pushing, right? And you're pushing out for longer than the inhale is. Obviously, double the time of what your inhale is.
Yeah.
So it is almost like a little bit uncomfortable, but that's what makes it a good reset. So a lot of these things, and again, I feel like it almost is kind of comparable to like that physical health. Working out, it's a little uncomfortable, right? You feel a little bit sore. It's the same thing for our mental health. It's the same thing for that vagus nerve activation. The cold therapy, to your point, I like to be warm. That's comfortable. That's cozy. The cold is uncomfortable. That means we're growing, right? It's kind of like that growing pain mentality.
Yes.
We're doing better. We're growing. We're helping ourselves. It's good for me, right? The uncomfortability sometimes can be a good thing. So trying to utilize that cold therapy.
Push your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like it. I do. And I think especially if you're someone who has like a flight of ideas or a lot of intrusive thoughts when you start to feel anxious or angry or overwhelmed, this is a really great way because we're not focusing right in that moment on fixing anything. We're not focusing on that moment of, reframing those thoughts. We're just, I need to get my something cold and I need to physically re-regulate first.
Okay. So we did the noticing what was going on, noticing the alarm. Then we did the reset tool.
Mm-hmm.
We did the kind of how do we do the ice cube, do the breathing. But then the next step we need to do is how do we make that part of our day? How do we make that part of our identity? How do we take our show on the road?
So I think routine is very, very important. It's a great way to train our brain. So like I said before, getting into the habit of, even if you can't do it throughout the rest of your day, right? Morning cold therapy, 10 out of 10 recommend. You're starting your day, you're activating that vagus nerve, you're starting feeling physically and emotionally regulated, and you're setting yourself up for, from a neuroscience perspective, from a mental health perspective, for a very positive day. So that's kind of step one, or, one way to go about it. And I think the other thing is what we were talking about last episode of what are those small scale habits that you can implement throughout your day, right?
Mm-hmm.
While you're brushing your teeth, do your positive affirmations. When you're in the shower, do your body scan. Where am I holding tension? Where am I feeling overwhelmed? And then asking yourself, what tools can I be using to re-regulate? What is working well for me? And that's really work you have to kind of do on your own, which I know is hard, but it's very important. Finding what works best for you is the most important thing.
It is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and seeing yourself in a positive way, not beating yourself up, but just seeing yourself as a human who has wisdom, as a human who is out there in the world trying his or her best. Like I'm just out here in the world doing it, and the world's not always user friendly.
Right.
Sometimes we have to really like get our little bell jar a little place of peace, and then incorporate some really some positivity and some really good habits underneath our bell jar. Let the world just kind of do its buzzy thing while we're in here with our peace.
100%. I always tell my clients to progress, not perfection.
Progress, not perfection.
I really like that. And I think it's important, especially in the context of these little habits, because I'll have clients come in like, I forgot to do this or this. It's like, that is okay, right? It's not going to be 100% every single day. But can you be nice to yourself on the days that you're not being 100%, right? That's more important.
Just take the old civic and flicker off the shoulder.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. Give yourself that, like, and that's that kind of like, speaking of those little things, one of the things that I feel like giving yourself a hug, like actually crossing your hands, and you can do the hit one side, hit the other side, hit, like literally hugging yourself and breathing, give yourself that hug because you deserve it.
100%. And
You're
I think
working on yourself.
It's funny you say that. So you kind of did like a tapping motion. Tapping, another great way to activate your vagus nerve. Humming, singing, all great ways to activate your vagus nerve. Just someone that gets anxious in the car driving to work, put on that radio, sing along to the song. Anything that you can do, those little tiny things right throughout your day, they do make such a big difference.
That's awesome. We got this.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on The Therapist's Couch, presented by the Sozo Wellness Institute. We hope today's conversation offered you insight, inspiration, and a sense of connection on your journey toward authentic living. If you found value in this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing it with someone who might benefit. To continue the conversation and access additional services, follow us on Instagram or TikTok at the.therapists.couch, or visit our website at sozowellnessinstitute.com. Until next time, please be well.